We're good to go. Welcome back, everybody, to Best Practice TV. If you are somebody who is a manager, if you are somebody who is leading a team, if you are somebody who is in a business, if you are somebody who is working hard to rally your team to improve your customers' experience, improve your safety in your organization, improve your environmental sustainability, improve your impact of your organization on the planet using management systems or system and process. Today, I'm going to be talking about framework over system or framework over process. I've got some thoughts about that I'm going to share with you guys. So we are, for those of you that have been following us for the last couple of weeks, we are now live in our brand new office. We still have holes in the ceiling and we are still trying to work out lighting and all those kinds of things. And everyone's getting bits and pieces set up. We've got walls to go up around our studio. That hasn't happened yet, but we are live and we're here for you guys. So for those of you that have come on, let me know where you're watching from. While we get a few things sorted. But in this video today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the concept of framework over process or framework over system, management system. We can deep dive into writing policies and procedures and systems for our organization. But really what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks and what I'm thinking about a lot is more about how we can actually improve the effectiveness of our people. So one of the things we got going, I apologize for the background noise, but we are in an open office today giving you the broadcast. So that is something that we're live and we're operating as we come out of the COVID crisis with Best Practice. So let me know where you're watching from. If you're watching on LinkedIn, we are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube. And I think we got Facebook and Instagram going maybe as well. Obviously lots. So I think I saw a comment there from Roger Swift. So a quick comment there when I got to see it. So welcome back, Roger. So who else have we got there? So Adam Jackson, welcome. Who else have we got? So a couple of people there. If you are watching on YouTube, hey Ash, welcome back, Ashley Bauman. I actually saw an old testimonial from you yesterday. I think actually a Google review, Ashley. So I really appreciate that. I was reading the Google reviews last night. So yeah, if you are somebody who has been following us for a while, if you could do a Google search, find Best Practice and give us a Google review, that would really help us a lot. So, okay, so what do we got there? So Adam, Roger, good to have you guys on the live stream there on LinkedIn. And who we got? We got Ash, and we got Stan, and we got Emily on YouTube. So welcome everybody, and Zach, obviously. Good to see you, Zach. Zach's live here in the studio with us. So good morning, Zach. I've just come out of a great meeting. We've just done a review of how we've been going. I had a week off last week, so I'm really grateful for the time and the team carrying on the worthy cause. Look, this is all about a Q&A for you guys, and it's about me coming live, twice a week to talk about a particular topic, but it is about me answering the questions for you guys. It's much more interactive for me. Really, if I can unlock an issue for you, if I can help you, if we can work on an issue that you're scrambling with at the moment, then using that comments is using the comments there either on LinkedIn or YouTube, because we are live on both, to help with that. So and Michelle, welcome. So yeah, let everyone know where you are watching from. Good to have you guys on board today. So what you are seeing actually here is what's going on in the background in terms of, some of you may not have seen this banner before. I know, Stan, you saw that at our amazing summit earlier this year, is the different brands of Best Practice. And I appreciate that they're out of focus at the moment, but it's being aware that, we have got the talent business, Best Practice Talent, lots of great content going up on the bestpractice.biz website. That's there to help you guys. Lots of stuff happening on the certification website, lots of stuff happening on the education website as well. And also Next Practice. So Next Practice, our blue logo there. So if you are a team that's looking for some external coaching support, more of a deep dive in terms of the context of what we talk about here at Best Practice, you can reach out to the team at Next Practice. They can come in and coach you through some of these frameworks. So I wanted to talk to you today about framework, moreover system and policy and process. And I was just in a conversation 5 minutes ago about, this beautiful system's been built. It's beautiful system process, a great amount of stuff that has been developed, but really we want to talk about the people part. So we've got people, we've got data, and we've got process. So if we can give people, a map across a route, a route across a map to follow. We can give them some stepping stones across the river. That would be the policy or the system. But we've still got to be thinking about the people part, and we've got to be thinking about the confidence of the person to do those steps. We've got to be thinking about, their ability. We've got to thinking about their motivation to do that, because, we can give people a system to follow or a process to follow, but if we don't give them the right framework and we don't give them the right routines and behaviors, we don't give them the right artifacts, we don't give them the right, what am I thinking about, traditions to follow, then we're not going to get success. So that's what, as we start to build our community, our team being a community, our team being a tribe, if you like. Otherwise, we've just got a bunch of individuals not playing as a team. It's been really interesting the last couple of weeks to watch my 9-year-old start to play competitive soccer. He's played on and off a little bit of team soccer, but he's now starting to play competitive soccer. And it's really interesting to watch those guys at 9 years old, and they range from 9 to 10 years old. It's when they start working as a team and they're passing and they've got a system to follow, they've obviously got rules to follow, but there's a huge amount of variation in terms of how they can play the game. And so working as a team in terms of how you play the game, those are some of the frameworks that I wanted to talk to you about today. So I like to use the word tradition. If you can think about the context of framework in your organization, and if the framework is the 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 traditions that you guys have as a team in terms of how the team operates, it's those traditions that are going to give you success. It's not going to be the written document that's going to give you success. It's going to be the routines and the habits and the traditions of your team. And so I want to quickly talk about one of the traditions of our marketing team. We have literally just come out of a 1-hour meeting. It's 9 o'clock. It's every Wednesday where the marketing team get together and review our performance from last week. Our executive team gets together quarterly, reviews our performance over the last quarter. So those are the kinds of things that I want you guys to be thinking about in the context of how you can actually set up those traditions. So let me know in the comments, what might be some of the traditions, what are some of the things you guys do on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis? And while you give me some of those comments, I'm just going to move these lights back because they are too close. So just turn them so they're facing that screen because the camera's overexposing. Okay, that's better. Okay, fantastic. So just let the camera settle down a little bit. It's all too intense. So for you guys, start thinking about that. So for us, it's about our executive team meeting quarterly. It's about our marketing team meeting weekly. It's about our board meeting bi-monthly. Our board meetings are every 8 weeks. So it's those kinds of traditions that we have. If you think about the traditions of tribes, the traditions of cultures, those are the kinds of things that set your organization up for success. Those are the kinds of things that are going to give your business a stable terminal to come back to, that you might miss a week, you might miss a month, you might miss some of those sorts of things that you're going to miss. And so it's, yes, we can have policy, and yes, we can get frustrated, and yes, we can be doing that kind of stuff. But without those traditions, those frameworks, if you like, then we're going to miss the point. So we can talk about some of the most successful cultures. We can talk about the Roman culture, if you like. We could talk about the Spanish culture that went all the way through the Southern American continent. And what were some of the traditions of those cultures that set them up for success? It wasn't because they had superior weapons or superior superior activity. It was just that they were more organized than their competition. And so when you look at your competition from your business's perspective, or the challenges for you guys, I want you to think about some of those frameworks. So let's get into the system side, or the risk management system side of frameworks. We're just going to have a quick session today because we've got so much on today. I don't want to take too much of your time. So get in now with your questions if you have got them. Welcome to Barbara, obviously, and Stan, thanks very much. Yes, okay, so Barbara, you've got, we have management offsite annually, fantastic, and management reviews every 6 months. Barbara, if I could encourage you to be looking at your organization on a quarterly basis, so having those management reviews on a quarterly basis, and in thinking about the next 3 months, what does success look like? And so then you're basically doing the creative plan once a year, and then you're looking at your organization on a quarterly basis. If you feel doing your management reviews more than 6 monthly is too intense, it's because you've got duplication in another part of the business, and we're actually missing the part of the business that's actually driving. So it might be that financially we have these quarterly reviews or monthly reviews, and then we do this 6 monthly management review. we've got to get those two things to come together, because the management, the quality system, the safety system, the environment system that you're working with is the true intention of that is to actually use that to drive your business. Because you can look at management review, you can look at monitoring and measurement, and you can actually be reacting and not thinking too far ahead. So it's just the next 12 weeks. So 12 weeks from now, let me check my calendar. 12 weeks from now is, let me just have a quick look. So what are we at? We're at the July, 15th of July. So we've got August, September, October. What are the things that you want to achieve? Buenas noches, David. ¿Cómo estás? So David's there on LinkedIn. When you're thinking about, August, September, October, by the 15th of October, what's really important to you? When you're standing on the 15th of October and you're thinking about the last 3 months, and you're thinking about, next week, the week after, and you look back over next week, what are the things that you wanted to achieve in your business? What was we don't want to have any accidents. We don't want to have any incidents. So what are the most likely incidents and accidents that you might have next week? What are the most likely incidents and accidents that you might have in August? What are the most likely incidents and accidents that you might have in September? That's all you need to think about. So 6 monthly, from me, in my opinion, is it's not often enough, and it's not focused enough on actually running the business, because it does get us to focus right down. So that is one of the traditions that makes your organization successful and brings in things like the ISO standards into the right framework. It's the framework of how we run the organization, not just the tick a box exercise. And I appreciate you guys aren't ticking a box, but it's that kind of thing that we want to think about. In thinking about the end of July, so the rest of July, and thinking about August, what are the really, really critical things that you guys want to achieve? If you're an Australian business and you're receiving JobKeeper payments, then it would be really important to be really looking closely at your financials for what's going to happen in October. Because Alan Kohler, who reports on the news, one of the Australian journalists, is reporting at the moment that insolvencies of businesses, the numbers are down at the moment. So the stimulus packages in the economy at the moment are propping up companies that would ordinarily fail. And I guarantee you, when JobKeeper, which is the Australian stimulus package for Australian companies at the moment, I guarantee you that when it finishes in September, that company insolvencies will be double numbers than they usually are, because those companies are being carried through this bad period. So it would be very important right now in the current crisis, even if your business is exploding, to be really thinking about the next 12 weeks, what does success look like? So the data, the brutal facts of the matter right now is that in a time of economic crisis, that company insolvencies are actually half what they usually are, which means that the government stimulus is stopping those companies from failing, and they're going to fail because that money's going to run out. So they could be some of your suppliers, they could be some of your customers if it's not you. So right now, as we think about frameworks, it would be really important to be thinking about doing due diligence on some of our suppliers, doing due diligence on some of our customers, and looking very closely in terms of what success looks like. Okay, excellent, Barbara. I appreciate that. Is it Mitchell? Mitchell G or Michelle? I'm not sure there. What about a framework for sales team? Is something in best practices remit experience? Okay, so from a sales team perspective here at Best Practice, we have a culture of or a tradition, if you like, of a Monday sales meeting where we do what we call a segue. We talk about a highlight professionally and a highlight personally across the sales and business development team from the previous week. So maybe it was closing a deal, maybe it was something professionally that one of the business development team members achieved. Then we go through and we look at our best case, worst case for the month in terms of what else we've got to come in from a sales and revenue perspective. We track the best case and worst case numbers. We try to land our sales result in the middle. We know what our goal is. And so if our best case is reporting what our goal is for the month, then we're happy. But if our best case is below what our financial goal is from a sales perspective for the month, then we increase the pressure and intensity. We check back in on our pipeline on a Wednesday. So the other tradition we do with our sales team is we meet every Wednesday, which is today. And as soon as this live stream finishes, I've got a half an hour break, and then I'm going to be straight into a sales and business development meeting. We look at every single lead that we got last week. We look at every single inquiry, and we make sure that every single one of those inquiries is getting 5-star service. Then we meet at the end of the month, we review our numbers, and then we look quarterly across what our key account plans are. Those are our traditions. That's the framework we've set up, which is just those routines, the training and coaching routines that we have. The only other thing that I can add in there in terms of a framework is we make sure that the sales and business development team, and to a certain extent the marketing team, are always teaching each other something. And so when we come into those meetings, we know that when you teach others, you get better at what you're doing. One of the reasons I'm getting so good at what I'm doing in terms of running a business is I'm teaching every week. I'm taking these concepts and principles and I'm talking to you guys. And from what we know about the learning pyramid, I've talked to you guys about that before, that with that process, that we make sure that in every meeting that people are teaching something, and particularly in the sales and business development team, where there is some technical information in terms of selling. We teach selling principles, closing principles, objections management. We teach about scripts. We talk about some of the technical information on our product knowledge. We talk about product knowledge. So those are some of the framework, I guess, concepts from a business development team's perspective. Okay. Weekly online meeting every Monday from you, Stan. Excellent. I appreciate you taking my advice on that. Ashley, excellent. Monthly advisory meetings, quarterly management review meetings. Fantastic. The team there at ProTech, where Ashley Bauman is, do take a lot of my advice, and they are successful as a result. They've got a good, stable business. Yes, they have the highs and lows of the marketplace, but they've got those routines and traditions in place, and it works for them, which is excellent to see. Welcome to the people watching from Melbourne. Can you just do me a favor and scroll down on the LinkedIn comments so I can see what questions are happening down there? Okay, excellent. So if you are watching on YouTube or if you are watching on LinkedIn and you have got questions, I've just been through all the questions there on YouTube for those of you guys watching on LinkedIn. So please jump on and grab those. So I just want to give you an overall picture. I apologize, this particular session, I haven't got a whiteboard behind me. Otherwise, I would draw you a diagram. We put an ebook together, which I know that a bunch of you guys have got a copy of that ebook. You've purchased it from our online store. There's an ebook that has got the framework, I guess, in terms of how to build a management system. So really, what we sometimes neglect, or I see organizations neglect, is they'll write policies and procedures and systems and process, but they'll neglect the concept of the calendar. So that they'll neglect the concept that, we're in the month of July right now, then we've got August, and then we've got September, and they neglect to consider actually the timestamp of when things are going to happen. The routine that we're in right now at Best Practice is we're going live for you guys every Wednesday and Thursday. That routine's going to continue. We're going to do more podcasting. We're going to do some very specific podcasts for you guys, and we'll get into that routine. So what I want you to understand or start to think about from a framework perspective, setting up your management system and how you're delivering your business plan, think about that in the context of the calendar. When? The question of when. It's great that you can say the things that you're going to do. We shall do this. We shall do that. We shall have a policy. We shall be environmentally friendly. I want you to think about when. When are you going to do those things? Because it's very easy to react. The business at the back of this particular site is very reactive. It's a hard business to control. It's growing very quickly. And so I asked the question, I'm trying to bring some routine and discipline to that business. The discipline of, not discipline in terms of discipline reaction, some discipline in terms of doing things at the time that we say we're going to do them. And that's probably one of the biggest weaknesses in many of the businesses that I get to look at, is that you guys are not doing the things that you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do them. And it's that productivity at the time that you say you're going to do something that's going to bring your success. Really great LinkedIn post that we put up this week, which was perfect practice makes perfect, and perfect practice that's perfected makes success. And it's a credit to Zach for that particular post, that it is that perfect practice that makes perfect, and it is perfect that makes success. And so the more times that you do it, that's why we want to talk about framework and routine today in this context, is that the more that you practice something, the better you're going to get at. The more the data you're going to get, the more times that you do something, the more frequency, then you're going to have that opportunity to start analyzing your performance and starting to improve over time. So that is that framework that you want to go through. Okay, any questions? Excellent. Inquiry on the website. What about a framework for sales? I got the framework for the sales team. Thanks for that, Mitchell. Excellent. Make sure you, Mitchell, if you mention you've put an inquiry on the website, make sure you mention my name so we can we can respond. Greetings from Ecuador. Buenos dias, or buenos noches, buenos dias from David there. That's in Ecuador. Welcome. And where else is everyone watching from? I know, Roger, you're up in Queensland. Got some people down there in Melbourne. Any questions from anyone? What about from the peanut gallery I've got in the studio with me? What about you, Zach? Any questions? Got Zach, Luke, and Emily in the studio with me this morning. I'll put them on the spot. Okay, how are we going? Let's talk about some of the routines in terms of you guys. So the other question I have for everybody is, what's your personal routine? What's your personal framework in terms of, I'm trying to push these guys to move through their careers faster and maybe not stall like I did in the early parts of my career, is to actually ask questions, set goals, move forward, and start to have that routine of looking back over those things. My personal routine, which you guys sometimes don't see because I do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, is to sit down and write myself a to-do list for the day. I keep adding to that to-do list. It's in a notebook. When the page fills up, I turn to the next page. And then yesterday I sat for an hour and I went back over my to-do list. And while I wasn't consciously doing some of those tasks, I crossed a heap of things off that I've achieved over the last month. So I hadn't actually stopped to go through and cross them off, but they have been done. And then I can re-look at my priorities. So with those routines and that framework, the framework's, the ultimate measure of success of your framework is that you are working on the priorities when you say you're going to work on them at a meaningful time to close them off. So something that's going to go wrong, make it a priority, work on it. And that's the concept of framework. And that's the concept of achieving that success. We can have a policy that says, yeah, we're going to manage our risks, but if we don't work on those issues at the right time, then they're going to have an impact on the business. They're going to cause a consequence on the business. So when we think about, I want you to think about the framework. What's the communication framework in the team? What's the cultural building framework of the team? What is the framework of the traditions, the types of things that happen in a sequence of events, and when do those things need to happen? For example, management review. We have our management review on a quarterly basis. Part of that review is really to set and reset the goals every quarter. Stay focused on those goals, not think too far into the future, focus on your 90-day sprint so we can go through those things. Plan, do, check, act, review. That's correct, Roger. So Roger's comments there on LinkedIn, that's exactly right. We go quarterly and we do plan, do, check, act, and review. And so we go through and say, how did we go? How did that work out for us? How's it working out for us? Without doing that, stopping and checking, like, if we've got a fitness campaign or a weight loss campaign, if we're not stepping on the scales every day or once a week, then how can we track our performance? So we want to stop and start and look and say, okay, what's our dashboard? I mean, that's the concept here at Best Practice, is that, yes, these are all of our logos, but this is also a monitoring and measurement dashboard. These are all graphs of performance over time. And that's the principle of saying, okay, how is our dashboard running? How is our organization running? What data is affecting? If our post, from a marketing perspective, if our social media posts drop, then our organics drop and our traction drops and our impressions drop, and eventually our revenue drops. So we've got to keep our marketing and our branding up to actually keep our revenue up. And when we keep our revenue up, then our staff are happy, our business is productive, the vibe of the organization is much better. So we want to be starting to think about that stuff for your organization. Okay, welcome from Manila in the Philippines. And that's exactly right, Stan. Plan, do, check, act. But for me, I try to develop high performance habits. That's exactly right. So Stan's on the right track. The habits and the framework. So the high performance habits of writing a to-do list every day, checking in on that, doing a little bit of meditation, doing some exercise, eating properly. A lot of what we're doing, the group that are watching this right now, a lot of what you guys are doing is using your intelligence and your intellect. You're not doing necessarily manual work. And so we've got to keep our brains in a high performance state. We've got to be thinking the right way. We've got to be thinking about the things that we're doing in the right way so that we can have those high performance outcomes. And if we're not investing in ourselves first, then we can't expect our team to deliver high performance. I guess it's this concept I wasn't going to talk about today, but I'll mention it, is this leading by example. And that's what I try to do for you guys, is try to lead by example and say, just copy what I'm doing, follow what I'm doing, so that will actually guarantee you success. And if you don't stop, if you don't quit, then you will succeed. It's a no-brainer. Like, success is really easy, just don't stop. But people give up. And so from a business's perspective, don't give up. Make sure you stick to the things at the right time and you will succeed. Go on and jump in the swimming pool, keep swimming, keep training. If you want to win a swimming race, and you just keep showing up and showing up and showing up, and you will keep improving. Obviously, body type and shape and length come down to, important aspects of swimming, but you will get better and better and better. And if you're setting yourself as the benchmark to keep beating your performance, and you keep focusing on what you can do to tweak your performance, then you will get better over time, and you can set yourself some realistic goals for yourself. But don't give up, don't stop. That's the important part of this exercise. Okay, so from a framework perspective, I'll quickly touch on some of the headings with management systems, management review. We've obviously talked about policy, we talk about leadership commitment, we talk about communication, we talk about monitoring and measurement, we talk about management review, we talk about resources, some of the headings from the international standards and frameworks for managing, customer service, quality assurance, managing OH&S, managing cybersecurity, managing risk management. That, these ISO standards, the international standards we talk about, start with things like leadership. They talk about leadership commitment, because without the leadership commitment, and that is like a cultural commitment, that's the commitment that you guys want in terms of what you're doing in your organization. If you haven't got that cultural commitment, that's the people part. Those ISO standards start with the people part. They start with the top people. They work their way down to the other people. But it's recognizing that the leader sets the tone, the leader sets the energy, the leader sets the behaviors, and people follow examples. And so you've got to start to set those examples, even if you're a team member and you're a little bit lower down in the organization. Had a great conversation with a guy last night who is a little bit, he's sort of in the middle of an organization. He's trying to influence outwardly around the organization. We just talked about that. He said, you've just got to be consistent. You just got to set the behaviors, and you will actually affect the people around you. So you can have a positive effect on those people or a negative effect on those people. So he tries to campaign positivity. He uses us as a source of inspiration and motivation, and then that spills over into his team. So we have that remote impact on their business. Their business is better as a result of the positive impact we project onto him. He projects the positive impact on the business. So when you're looking at the ISO standards, they talk about leadership commitment. And that's something that I want you to consider in terms of the framework. I will ask the question. When people are trying to solve a challenge, I'll say, what's the 5-star version of the situation? What is the positivity that we can project? What's the positive energy we can project? What's our goal? What does success look like? And it's those kinds of questions that sets a framework for people to be asking questions of themselves. Okay, let me get to David's question. Just a question about process. Could you give me advice where I should start to improve the amount of headcount related to process in a supply chain company? Just a question about process. Could you give me advice on where I should start to improve the amount of headcount related to processes in a supply chain company? I think the best thing you can do, David, there is what I would call a time in motion study, which is to actually start to look at who's attached to what step of the process. So if you wanted to look broadly speaking at supply chain, if you like, and like what are the steps as part of that. So maybe how does your customer move through the supply chain? Is supply chain just raw materials? Is that driven by customer order? So, when the customer places the order on you, do you place the order on your suppliers, or do you try to forecast that? If you've got some goodwill in the business, it's easy to forecast. So how can you improve your forecast? And then how can you look through that? And then you can look at the head count against each of those steps, and we can look at efficiencies across that. So how do we look at, say, capacity? So once we can say maybe we can look at headcount and what their involvement is in each of the steps. Look at each of those people, and you can ask yourself 3 questions. Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have capacity? And so if you're looking to improve headcount and reduce headcount, if I'm reading into this question, if I've got the question right, David, I hope I'm helping. But if you're looking to reduce headcount because you want to improve efficiencies and improve how you're managing costs, looks like LinkedIn might have frozen. David, it's important to be then thinking about looking at each person and doing a little matrix. Do they get it? Tick. Do they want it? Tick. Do they have capacity? Now, capacity is emotional resilience, it's skills and competency, and it's numbers of days hours in the week to actually do the job. So you can look at each of those people and you can say, okay, what can we do in terms of get it? Move them to another seat, move them to another place in the supply chain or in the process. Do they want it? Really digging down into those people and saying, well, what do you want? Are you working out of a sense of obligation, or are you working because you really like what you're doing? And then obviously capacity, because we can work to improve skills and competency. We can work to improve their capacity, if that makes sense. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, I am conscious of time. We were just going to do a quick one today in terms of framework over process. I hope this has helped you guys. I want you to think, instead of the steps to the process, I want you to be thinking about, when do you do things? When is the best time to be doing activities in your organization? And start to really consider that. Don't just do something or a step in the process out of a sense of obligation. Think about when is the right time. And I really wanted you guys to come away with the concept of when, in terms of when do we need to do things? When is the right time to be looking at a step in the process? Project management companies like Ashley Bauman's company, who's watching on YouTube, when they start to think about the sequence of activities, when is the best time to be doing different activities as we go through the business? Trying to identify bottleneck processes in the supply chain. Okay, if you are looking, sorry, that's from Roger, your question there on trying to identify bottleneck processes in the supply chain. Look, I think that's always a challenge in terms of looking at where are the bottlenecks. I think the best thing I can say is observation. The more that you observe the process, the more that you're going to work your way through the process, and you're going to see where capacity blocks are. If I use this factory as an example, physical space is always an issue because there is a cultural behavior of putting things down on the ground instead of putting things up in racking. So I've been training some of the guys to understand the concept of A, B, C, D put away process. So things that you use frequently, put at the front of the factory, things that you don't use very often, put at the back of the factory, and that has helped them improve their capacity. It's helped them improve the bottleneck in the process because they're just bringing things in and just randomly putting them in an empty slot. And so we're starting to do a bit of reorganization and move things we don't touch very frequently to the back of the factory, and that's helped with a bottleneck in that supply chain. So I think if the best thing you can be doing at a high level thing is actually doing an observation, doing the process observation, and then starting to say, okay, where do we think the bottlenecks might be? Doing some interviews across the business and saying, where do you guys think the bottlenecks might be? And there is three really great questions, David, you could be asking, and Roger, you could be asking your team. These three questions really important. I've said them before in some of these posts and some of the videos. What is it that I do fairly often, or I do more of, that I could do more of for you? What is it that I don't do very often that you would like me to do more of? What can I do for you to make you more effective? So if you've got an issue with supply chain bottlenecks, it's going to each of the stations in the supply chain, each of the people in the supply chain, each of the parts of the supply chain, and asking that question, what can I do to make you more effective? And getting some of that data is going to give you some really good information to analyze that process. For those of you listening closely, you might have just heard the office dog Scupper's come to work with us today, so I apologize for that background noise. Okay, Edgar, let me get to your question. How to best understand the new behaviors of customers, ultimate customer due to the ultimate customer due to the pandemic, so companies would know what and how best to intervene. Look, I think it is something that's really important to be looking at relationships and starting to, I've been hearing in the last couple of days, people talking about unfair advantage. We lost a really great deal last week because the competitor had a better relationship. And our team have been complaining, we're not getting work because they've got a better relationship. So have a better relationship. How do you get an unfair advantage? You have a better relationship with your customers. We've been talking about that this morning here at Best Practice. How do we talk to people? How do we improve relationships with people? So it's getting to know people, their first name, their last name, where they live, what they're interested in, what they like, what they don't like. Those kinds of concepts are really important to be thinking about relationship. So for you, Edgar, I would be looking at doing a deep dive in terms of relationship and specifically naming those people, first name, last name, going through that process and saying, okay, cool, what is it? So it's really something to consider in terms of that process. Excuse me for a second. Hey guys, can you just keep it down just a little bit? So I apologize for that. So something that I really want you to be thinking about is starting to think about those relationships, how you can actually first name, last name. A gentleman that's just walked in the office just a second ago, he's got 20 key account plans to have deep dive relationships with 10 people at each of those 20 accounts. That's 200 people that he's going to spend the next year building relationships with. So he's got an unfair advantage. A close relationship with 200 people, which are the people he does business with, is going to give him that unfair advantage. And for you, Edgar, if you're picking up new customers, if you're picking up new people, then it's really doing that deep dive. Hey, Barbara, another question. I'll look at the when and bring it up with our staff meeting tomorrow. That's excellent. So it's really, Barbara, it's the discipline becomes when. If you think about Olympic athletes and high performance athletes, when do they go to training and what's their routine? What's their, they talk about religious training. You talk about high performance training, but they go to training religiously. That's that coin of phrase. So it's really something to think about from your business's perspective. What are the things that you need to do religiously, and when, that will guarantee your success? And I'm really concerned about the next 6 months in business globally. And I really want to be helping you guys that we need to get on the front foot. We are pushing up a really steep hill. Every business globally right now is pushing up a really steep hill. I know there's some businesses that are exploding. There's a few, but the vast majority of businesses are really struggling and are going to struggle even harder. And so it's really important for us to think about the behaviors and activities and actions and activities of our teams. And when do we need to do those things religiously? And your job, you guys who are taking my message back to your businesses, is to be really thinking about when do we need to do those things religiously. Okay, David, you're very welcome. I appreciate that. Roger, thank you. Correct. Bottleneck is sometimes the people. So yeah, Roger, that comment that you've made there to David, bottleneck is definitely, if you can use that GWC tool, get it, want it capacity, that often people who haven't got the skills, they either don't get it or they don't have the skills and competencies or the time to do something. Yes, that's exactly right. They become the bottleneck in the process. Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So couple more minutes for questions. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a wrap. I am conscious of the background noise and the impact that I'm having on my team right now in our open office. So I want to welcome everybody to the new Best Practice home. If you are in Sydney and you do get the opportunity in the next couple of months, reach out to us, come for a visit. We're going to be having a small socially distanced launch party, which we will broadcast live in the next couple of months as we get people coming back into the Best Practice head office. Plenty more stuff happening for you guys live. If you want a really good outline of a quality safety environment system in terms of how to set it up and set up the framework, Vanessa can maybe do a favor for us and post the link to the ebook in the comments there on the video so that you guys can go and check that out online. It's a really simple booklet that you can buy on our online store that gives you that framework. It's a couple of $100. Great resource for your organization in terms of the things to be critically focusing on to build out your management system so it helps your business to achieve success. So if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, please send me a LinkedIn invitation. At Kobe Simat is my LinkedIn handle. You can find me on LinkedIn. Lots of great content coming out from the team here, and huge shout out to the team for their patience as we get through. Thank you, Ashley, for the congratulations on the new office. Yes, it's something that we are going to be putting a lot of effort in as we get the studio set up. We've got tons more high quality content, soundproof booth, lots more podcasts. Luke loaded 5 podcasts yesterday. So if you haven't checked out those podcast episodes, you can go to the Apple iTunes account to get your podcasts, or Spotify. We're broadcasting to all your favorite podcast platforms. So if you haven't checked out the podcast and you are a podcast person, lots of great podcast episodes, 5 new episodes yesterday. So that's it for me. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate you coming on board. I want you to, your homework is to go and think about when are the religious activities going to happen in your business that is going to drive your success. And what is the weakness? What is one thing that you could focus on this week? What is one activity that you know when you do it, you get success? You haven't done it for a while. This week is the time to do it. In fact, today or tomorrow is the time to actually schedule that activity. Be reactive. Do a reactive, proactive step. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about what you guys can do this week. You haven't done it very often. You haven't done it for ages, but you know when you do it, it drives success. Today's the day to react. Make that a priority. There are a few businesses that have quietened down a little bit over this time. Now's the time to get onto those activities, be it in business or in life generally. What's something that's generated success for you in your career that you haven't done for a little while? This week's the time to do it. So I hope this has helped everybody. Smash that like button for me if you're watching on LinkedIn. Smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. That really appreciate everybody's support with everything that we've been doing here at Best Practice. And if you don't see me out and about, because I am getting out and about to meet up with one of our account managers, if you don't see me out and about, you'll definitely see us all here next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.